Hey guys, welcome to this very special interview for NoDQ.com. And I couldn't be prouder to do this, especially so soon in my NoDQ.com career, but here we are. Today's guest actually had an awesome match on Sunday night at Double or Nothing, which not many people are actually considering now one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. Of course, we're welcomed here on NoDQ by FTR. We've got Cash Wheeler and we've got Jax Hallwood. Welcome, guys.
What's up, man? Thanks for having us on.
And thank you for your time more than anything else. I know your day is just getting started today, and obviously you're still just waking up, if that makes any sense.
That's why I got this.
I just chugged mine. That's why I had to ask for an extra minute or two here.
Well, either way, it's a real pleasure to have you guys on here.
Thanks, man. We enjoy doing this.
Cool. Thank you, and congrats on apparently the new career here at No DQ.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's something very fun. I only write, but this is my first interview in a long time. The last interview I did was with Sean Mooney, so you're in good company.
Let's do some controversial stuff to get your name out.
Controversy creates cash, like Mr. Bischoff always says. But anyway, guys, obviously Double or Nothing, you had a great match. Obviously the Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle. It's been very well received. It was a great match. It's been a great feud all around. Tell us about the general feel at Double or Nothing. Obviously, the fact that live crowds are back has added a lot to the programming, I dare say. So tell us about that initial response from the pay-per-view and obviously the match itself.
It was, for me, like very, very cool to see fans back. Like I remember maybe an hour after doors, not even, as the fans were maybe halfway in, like it was still rarely empty. Just you could feel the buzz in Daly's place. You could feel the electricity in the air already, and like I said, they're just filing in. It's half capacity, or not even, and we're hours from showtime, and by the time like Serena and Riho were out there, you could like legit feel everything shaking. Yeah. It was awesome.
It was fire, I just say.
Yeah. For even at Blood and Guts, we had like 2,000 fans there, 2,200 or whatever it was. And that was the first time we've had that many fans, in 15 months. And it was incredible. I was in there for the first 5 minutes, and they made it so much easier for me. So it hurts much less, so much less. There we go. And it was just an awesome feeling to have them there. And then, Double or Nothing was incredible. Was one of the best pay-per-views I've ever watched, I've ever seen. And our part of the match for Stadium Stampede was probably the most physical match that I've ever had, physical fight that I've ever had, because, the fans had a connotation from last year's Stadium Stampede, which in its own right was incredible and very entertaining. But we, myself and Cash, wanted to bring something completely different to Stadium Stampede this year. And we wanted it to be taken seriously, and we wanted at least our part to be just like us, real and gritty and raw. And, we brought it to Santana and Ortiz, and man, I got to take my hat off. They brought it right back to us. I had a lot of lumps and cuts and bruises sitting at home, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
And how great it was. Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
I was just to reiterate what he said, it was the physicality from Stadium Stampede, like I'm still feeling right now.
Yeah. And obviously the most important thing about that match is obviously you're facing people that you've never been in the ring in before as well. So what's that like, obviously, to see them all these years? Obviously, Sammy Guevara is just starting out. It's a very young, promising prospect in the world of professional wrestling today. But of course, you blend in the experience of Santana Ortiz, you've got Chris Jericho, Jack Hager, etc. So tell us about what it's like working with those guys.
It's been great. It's our job, to do that, but to be trusted to be in the main event position of a pay-per-view, but also the course of the last 2 months of Dynamite has been incredible. And, the ratings have reflected that. And that's something that we're very proud of. Also, I had my first singles match with Chris Jericho, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And going into that match, I wasn't going to take a step back, even though he's got this 30-year career and he's one of maybe the top, 5 or 10 greatest wrestlers ever. There's no way I'm going to take a step back. So I brought it to him, and he never backed down either. He wasn't going to let this, and I'm not even young, but I'm a little younger than him, but he wasn't going to let this younger guy come in and take over on him, and he brought the fight right back to me.
Now, what's it like to have someone like Chris around?
I mean, guys like Chris are, I mean, love him or hate him. Obviously, he's not our favorite, but you gotta respect what he does for wrestling still. You gotta respect that he's still doing this years after he doesn't even have to. He's doing this now because he wants to. He could have stepped back years ago, a decade ago if he wanted, but he's still giving back to wrestling, and he's still producing at a high level. Some of his, I mean, I think Max, obviously, with the microphone is untouchable, but Chris has been given some of the best work of his career right now. And I mean, I think it elevates everybody around him, because I know that Dax and myself, we feel like we need to make sure that when it's our time, that we aren't the weak links. We're going to step up. We're going to knock it out of the park too. Yeah.
Chris ages like a fine wine, I dare say. He knows how to reinvent himself with the times, if that makes any sense. So he did it in 2008, a year after he came back, and after his hiatus in 2005, and then he came back in 2007, reinvented himself. Then in 2008, after his heels, and he did the same thing. He's done it all, and like he's made himself relevant and kept himself fresh with his, whether it's his gimmick or anything that he does on TV. And I just say now it's when he's doing the best stuff of his career, I dare say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
well, he's with us. Of course, he's doing the best stuff of his career.
Well, AEW's been on fire lately, like Dak said. I mean, the show in general has just been clicking, and I'm very proud of the work we're doing, because I think Pinnacle and Inner Circle are right in the middle, the thick of these things, and I think we've been delivering.
And it's really cool to see. I mean, obviously the live crowds have a lot to do with it, obviously said before, but you can see that it's all a team effort. It's not just like individual efforts anymore. It's all a team effort. If one of you guys succeeds, all of you succeed. And it's great to see. I mean, even just following it, if someone, like if you reply to a fellow AEW superstar on Twitter, or on social media rather, it's always good to see the banter in a good way. And obviously you see the camaraderie and the team efforts, that if you guys get a high rating, it's a win-win for the team. It's not just like, oh, your match got the highest rating. No, we all did. You know, it's a team effort and it's a collective, and it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And obviously one of the most important things right now, at least in AEW, at least for me it is the fact that you have someone like Tully Blanchard as your manager. Without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time, bar none. Next to Arn Anderson, I dare say he's the best. What's it like to have someone like Tully there? And obviously not just for advice as a manager, but I just say as a mentor, and to actually get advice from him as well.
Yeah, man, I don't think, and this is no slight on our locker room, but I don't think that a lot of the guys understand the treasure that we all have having Tully Blanchard back there. And, you know, you said that behind Arn Anderson, he may be the greatest tag team wrestler of all time. But if you ask Arn Anderson will tell you, you know, point blank, he learned so much from Tully. And when they first started teaming, he let Tully drive the ship, you know, and he followed along because Tully was so good and is so good. You know, before Arn, he was teaming with Gino Hernandez. And if you can find some of the matches on YouTube, they're freaking incredible, man. They're just as good as the Arn and Tully matches. And you know, having him there and giving us little nuances of his knowledge that he learned and things that guys don't even think about nowadays because it's been lost after 30 years. That's, you know, one of the things that I'll treasure the most, having him there. And then I was just talking about this with someone yesterday. You know, we got a chance. Obviously, we patterned ourselves after Arn and Tully, but we got a chance to have quite possibly Tully Blanchard's retirement match. He never got that opportunity because he got blackballed from the business in '89. And we got the opportunity to have, at 67 years old, we got the opportunity to team with him and maybe his final match of all time. And he did. He didn't miss a beat at 67. There's no way at 67 I'm going to be walking.
You could just see the fire in his eyes that night too. You could just, he was Tully Blanchard of '85. He was out there. He was living it, and he was right. He was in the moment. Yeah,
he could have easily gone.
To take it a step further, you said he was one of the best tag team wrestlers, but in general, he's one of the best minds in wrestling.
Yeah.
For, like Dak said, the nuances and stuff like that, but also just as somebody that can teach you and guide you in life, because I mean, he's had the highest of highs and lowest of lows in his career. So he can help you with life advice. He can help you with tag team advice, just wrestling advice in general, because the way his mind works isn't like everybody else. And I think that's something we need to take advantage of, everybody.
Absolutely. And the one thing that people tend to forget as well is the fact that he is a second generation wrestler too. And his dad, as I say, was a pioneer of the wrestling business. Not many people seem to know, but his dad obviously had Southwestern Championship Wrestling was actually on the USA Network. For example, that's not something that was very unheard of at the time. It was on cable TV in the States.
The first wrestling show on cable television.
Exactly. And
the ones that
he made that happen.
He paved the way for Vince.
Yeah.
They just couldn't afford it. But yeah, you're exactly right. He is a pioneer. And real quick, I want to get this in there too about Tully. He hasn't lost a step of the passion that he had before. He loves wrestling, almost to a fault sometimes, but he loves wrestling. He loves texting us and asking what were the ratings, what were the breakdowns. He wants us to be the highest rated segment every show. He wants us to have the best match every show. So he hasn't lost that fire, man. It's good to see.
It's really cool to see the fact that he's very J.J. Dillon-like for you guys, at least in the sense where he's the one with the stick poking from behind and actually throws the stone and it actually then hides. It's very cowardly, but very genius at the same time. And I love that every single minute of it.
And dude, that kind of heel is lost, know, and I think it's because the instant gratification of social media now, because if wrestlers act like heels, they're afraid they're going to get, buried on social media for not being tough or whatever. But that's what's missing in wrestling is that kind of bad guy. Yeah,
I agree. And that's where I was going to lead to. The lost starts in the sense, obviously we talk about tag team wrestling. We could talk tag team wrestling all day because it's my kind of wrestling as well. But I mean, the lost sort of tag team wrestling, I just say, like, no pun intended, but the revival of it is thanks to you guys, I dare say, because of that. And it's very gratifying to see when wrestlers and superstars like yourself always wanting to thank those that paved the way. And it's always genius. It's always great. And it's very overwhelming to even watch it as a fan, I must say.
Yeah, well, thank you. And speaking of the guys that paved the way, a lot of wrestlers nowadays, they want to kind of crap all over the older guys, the older wrestlers, especially if there's a little small critique. But they got to understand, without those guys, we have nothing. There's no way I could take care of my wife and daughter without what Tully Blanchard and Jim Cornette, who has been very critical of our work lately, not of our work, but what we're doing. And that's okay, because he's Jim Cornette. He has the right to do that. It doesn't make me mad. He has the right to have his opinion. And a lot of wrestlers can't handle that nowadays. So I'm glad you said about paving the way, because
it's very important.
If they like it or love it or hate it, don't care either way. I mean, it's not going to affect, because at the end of the day, we're happy with what we're doing. I believe in what we're doing, and I'm having the time of my career right now.
Yeah, which is what I was going to get to you. As I say, it's changed your careers for the better.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
I mean, we just main evented a pay-per-view for the first time. We main evented Dynamite in the first ever Blood and Guts match, which we won. I mean, there's so many things we've done already. We've already won the AEW Tag Team titles once. We're going to go ahead and check that box off again soon, because we've never got that rematch. And when it's all said and done, we're not through with the Bucks, and they're not through with us. And this is going to go on for eternity until we finally have either a solid yes or no, we're the better team, or that's it.
All I can say, guys, like from a fan standpoint, it's very beautiful to see that, like, everything you guys are doing on TV, everything that you guys are doing as the pinnacle. Obviously, with having someone like Tully, you got someone as MJF, very promising as well. You've got Wardlow, who's also very promising. That group as a whole, that dynamic that you guys have, it's like you've been together for a very long time, and it fits and it works, and it's very gratifying to see.
Thank you. And I hope, I think it's because we're all unselfish. We're all unselfish, and we all believe in our own abilities. And I can only speak for myself, and I can speak for Cash, because we've been together for the better part of 10 years. But our insecurity and our talent is so low. We know how good we are. So there's nothing that we're worried about. So we don't have to be the EVPs of a company to make sure that we're the World Tag Team Champions. We know that we're the best. There's nobody better than us. And when you got Steve Austin and Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard and Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton and Ricky Morton and Bret Hart and Edge and Christian and all these guys who will publicly say they're the best tag team in the world, the best tag team I've ever seen, how can you deny it?
Exactly.
And if any other tag teams have an issue with that, if any EVPs have an issue with the MVPs, then they know where to find us. I mean, we're not hard to find.
Well, you guys are around them all the time, so no place to run, no place to hide. Like
we're not around them all the time. They don't like being around us. We like to make them feel uncomfortable and tell them that we know you brought us in just to beat us, so you could be the best tag team ever. We get it.
Well, they better watch their backs. If obviously you still got that rematch pending, like you said. So hopefully it will happen soon. Obviously, going back to Double or Nothing, and obviously we talked about obviously the fact that it is being dubbed as one of the best pay-per-views of all time, and obviously the fact that it was, and obviously the general feel as fans, it was just overwhelming online. But how overwhelming was it for the entire roster at AEW? Obviously, the fact that the announcements of Mark Henry signing as well made a lot of noise in a good way. So tell us about that, and how has that been received by the roster in general?
Just it's great to me because, just being at AEW only in the Daily's Place era for us. We've only been in Daily's Place. We haven't gotten to see like the AEW faithful, and those fans like watching AEW before we were there. Those fans, like, it takes the shows to another level. And you just can't recreate that no matter what. But like the whole roster stayed so positive through the entire pandemic that I didn't even realize how much I missed it. Really, I knew that there was something that was missing, but until Sunday at Double or Nothing, when you had the fans back in there and you can feel it all again, and it's back like it was before April of last year, then you can't really put into words and describe how it felt. Like the whole locker room was just, the vibe backstage was electric. Everybody's watching, everybody's glued to monitors. There's just little corners everywhere where people are gathered off in their cliques or their factions doing their thing, but everybody's watching and everybody's like supporting, and just the crowd the whole time, like they never wane. And like this Florida heat gets to you, and it's an outdoor venue, so like we know for a fact the heat will wear you down, but they stayed strong for 4+ hours, and it was magical.
Absolutely.
You're talking about you're asking about the Mark Henry signing. It's so easy for fans online to say, "Oh, Tony Khan's just blindly spending money on these ex superstars, whatever." But they have to understand, and everyone has to understand, that bringing in Christian and bringing in Mark Henry and Big Show and Sting, these guys are going to give the younger guys an education that no one else can get. Just that 3 minutes that Jungle Boy was in the ring with Christian at this pay-per-view made him, because Christian is so smart and knows what he's doing. And that's the reason that Tony Khan is spending this money to bring these guys in to help the future of AEW.
I was going to say,
these are not just guys that like they're throwing a dart at the wall and picking. Like, these are all people that have a proven track record of helping young and up and coming talent and wanting to help the future of the wrestling business. Yeah. So if these people are available and they have a proven track record of helping companies get better and talent get better, it's stupid not to have them on board. And I'm happy to have a guy like Mark, who's scouted more than a couple of dozen talents at this point that are knocking it out of the park every time they step on stage. So,
I think the bonus here, I think you guys will agree, it's not about the championships. It's like the fact that he wants to give back to, like you mentioned, to the young and upcoming talent themselves.
Right. Yep. Imagine what Mark Henry's going to do for someone like Will Hobbs, someone who's built the same as Mark Henry, and Mark can teach him how to be a dominant force, and how to be a monster. You have a guy like Wardlow. Wardlow's he's got unlimited potential, but he's also not been wrestling on TV very long, and Mark Henry's been doing it for a couple of decades now. So these big, strong guys can learn how to TV wrestle like a big, strong guy by guys that have done it at the highest level for a long, long time, such as Big Show and Mark Henry.
The great stuff is, I think it's like everything else. You got to believe what you see, and you got to believe what you hear, and what you guys like, not just what they bring to the table, but what they see, obviously, from the young and upcoming talent, but what they hear and feel, and like from the crowd. Obviously, like you mentioned, those 3 minutes where Kristen had to put Jungle Boy over, it was believable, and the fans were invested into it straight away from the beginning. And and it was a very I want to say, obviously not using the term, I didn't want to use it, but it was very much like a WrestleMania type feel in every sense of the word.
So there was a lot of younger talent there that had only been signed to their first contract during the pandemic or like the Daily's Place era. So they'd never had a full capacity crowd in their careers. Yeah. If they had like, maybe 1,000, couple hundred, like a lot of these guys, like they had never seen or worked in front of 4,000 or 5,000. And they like, so getting to see a lot of those guys get their first moment out there, like an Eddie Kingston out there, as much as I want to beat up him and seeing the reaction that Eddie got, seeing the reaction that Brett got, all these people that went out there and are working in front of enormous crowds, and they're just red hot. Like in the Jungle Boy moment was, I remember a lot of the guys saying, this is where I was going initially. A lot of the guys said like the Jungle Boy winning the Casino Battle Royal reaction was one of the loudest reactions they've ever heard in person, if not the loudest. And that says something because, again, going back to a guy like Christian, he's now helped elevate Jungle Boy to another level that's going to help Jungle Boy become a future world champion.
Absolutely. Talking about greatest tag teams, that was, for me, a Road Warrior pop in every sense of the word when that happened.
Sure.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was really that good. So obviously, without you talk about the fact that Jungle Boy could become a future AEW world champion. Who else do you guys see as future world champions besides yourselves, of course?
MJF, of course. I could see Jungle Boy getting there. Darby, Ricky. I mean, there's a lot of guys there. I mean, these are just some of the younger talents. There's a lot of guys there that I feel like have been around for a while, working and grinding, that will get their chance too. But I mean, there's so much potential, like future superstar power that it's take your pick right now.
I think the biggest star that's going to come out is going to be Will Hobbs, because he brings something different to the table. He doesn't. A lot of wrestlers, especially young guys, they try to conform to what they know will get a pop from the fans.
Yeah.
So they do the exact same thing that every other match does. Will Hobbs is not like that. He, in real life, is a badass, and in the ring, he wants to portray himself as a badass too. And I think he's going to come out as, one of the biggest stars in the industry. And
people invested into him as well, which is great.
Yep, for sure.
And he's just getting started.
I was going to say, you're just taking the words right out of my mouth. Besides everything that's going on, obviously, I just say the wrestling business right now is at an all-time high. And when it comes to AEW, obviously, there's NWA. Obviously, you can challenge for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Would you challenge for the NWA World Tag Team titles?
Would love to.
I think we challenge for any tag team title. I think we challenge for any tag team supremacy. We talk about it in every interview. The most important thing, aside from taking care of our family with the money, is our legacy. And to be able to go down as the greatest tag team ever, we have to face every tag team that is considered one of the greatest tag teams ever. So we'd love to go to NWA and get their tag team belts. I'd love to fight the Briscoe brothers too. Even though they're not champions, they're considered one of the greatest tag teams of a generation, as are we. And, they like to play tough guys from Sandy Hook, but I don't know if they could walk down our block, the block that we grew up on. And I would like to test our skills and our grittiness against them. There's a lot of guys we'd like to work with.
Yeah.
It's very important. One thing I was going to highlight, and this is for any young and upcoming talents or any young hopeful wrestler, I suppose. How important would you say it is to bond as a team outside of the ring?
I mean, I've seen teams that don't get along that can coexist for a certain amount of time, and they can fake it on screen for a while. But eventually, like if you want any sort of longevity, if you want to be a tag team, you have to have that bond, because otherwise there's only so long that you guys can fake your way through it before you have to get into the deep, meaningful stuff. And if you don't have that personal relationship, then that's going to crack in an instant. And you see it pretty often.
Yeah, I can't speak for any other teams, but I can speak for us. And when we were, before the pandemic, we were driving together every single day. we were even rooming together to save money because we weren't making any money back then. But we roomed together for years and years and years. We drove together. We were always together, and we worked out together. We ate together. We did everything. We still do. So it's important for us. I don't know how it is, how important it is for every other tag team.
That's great to know. Also, one thing I always highlight, and this is something I've always, like I mentioned before, I love tag team wrestling. It's always going to be my favorite form of wrestling anyway. Like I said, the years progress and obviously everything that goes on in the world of professional wrestling. But what is, would you say the key to watching classic tag team wrestling to learn from?
What's the key to watching it?
Yeah, and to learn from it, and what do you grasp from it to learn from, and maybe implementing it into your careers, I suppose?
To just stop looking for moves, look at how they pace the match, look at how they structure the match, look at how they hook the crowd, look how they know when to get the crowd up to their peak, when to bring them back down, and how they control it. And they don't let the crowd dictate what they're doing. Because I feel like now people are just watching for the giftable moments. They're watching for what move they can steal, what spot they can do, what sequence they can add, instead of looking for the details. And I feel like that's why it's such a lost art these days. If you go back and watch classic tag team wrestling, you see the details and you see what made it an art form, as opposed to, I always joke now that it's not tag team wrestling, it's just team wrestling, because there's no tags. You just do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Yeah.
And that's a real big issue, because it's tag team wrestling. And if you don't tag and if you don't respect the rules, then you can't structure a match properly to get the baby faces over or the heels heat. So just watch and understand how to work with the crowd and not just do something that's going to get a car crash reaction.
Yeah.
But also, like if you think, if we're trying to grow this brand, if we're trying to grow AEW and we're trying to grow tag team wrestling, if you watch a match and you see these guys tag and they get in the ring for, 2 minutes at a time with no repercussions, what does that tell the fan at home? What if someone's flipping through the thing and they're like, oh, tag team wrestling, let's watch this. They make the tag, the referee counts to 10 and then he stops counting. Oh, why isn't someone getting disqualified? Why isn't someone getting out? And a lot of guys think that that's the creative part. Oh, let's get 4 guys in there and do whatever we can for 4, or 3 guys in there. Let's do whatever we can. That's not the creative part. The creative part is when you can work around the rules and make your stuff work. And that's what you get from watching some of the older tag team wrestling. I think just like Cash said, guys are too busy worried about putting the moves in and looking for cool moves or cool sequences or cool combos or whatever. But when your strikes and your fundamentals and your snappiness is the shits, and you do a whole bunch of moves, honestly, that mean nothing. You're not going to be a bigger star. And that's, that's something that's completely missing from not just tag team wrestling, but all of wrestling today.
It's all down to creativity, and obviously heel tactics, heel moves. Like obviously there's always like the blind tag and everything else, but it's those things. It's like you mentioned, like you can't really look around in every sense of the word. You have to be creative yourself. Obviously take certain things from others, but you have to be your own dynamic, and you create your own dynamic duo, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you gotta make it your own, but you also have to do it within the rules so you can get your quote, because all these fans think they're so smart, but if you really are smart, how to get heat and how to make your baby face. And I don't think very many wrestlers know that nowadays.
And obviously this week has been, I want to say, marred by a lot of controversy, because we're going, this is not something I'm to bring up, but I think it's very important to highlight. WWE have released, I dare say, a group of talent, which is probably one of the most talented of groups, apart from the group that was apart when you guys got released, unfortunately. But tell us, or if you want to tell us, rather.
Real quick, let me stop you. No. Not unfortunately, we got released. It was very fortunate. We begged for our release for 1.5 years. They finally gave it to us on mutual terms. It was not unfortunate. It has not been unfortunate. I just want to stop it.
Forgive me for that. But anyway, it's been, I just say, a very fantastic crop that just been released this week. Would you like to see them be part of AEW, or is there any other free agents in the world of professional wrestling that you love to see as part of AEW?
Personally, I just want all of them to do what is going to make them happy. If that includes AEW, yeah. If that includes Impact or Japan or not wrestling at all. Some people might transition to other things. Who knows? Like it was a group of really talented people, so I know they're going to be all right because they're so talented and they're all very driven. You don't get to the point they were by not being driven. So like I hate it for them, and I know like it's going to be like a confusing time, and there's going to be times where you're really down about it, and you'll be upset and angry about it, and then you'll be happy about it. But eventually, in the long run, you're going to be happier. So just as long as they're happy in the end. I mean, I hate that it ended for them like that, but they're going to be better off.
It's definitely a blessing in disguise sometimes.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It's always the best way to sum it up. We talked about, or we can talk about Tully, like we mentioned before, but are you surprised, obviously, the fact that he got blackballs for so long as well? I just say has a lot to do with it, but are you surprised that he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame on his own?
I don't know. I mean, my answer is going to sound like I'm bitter towards the WWE, but not necessarily. He should be. I mean, before the Horsemen, he was drawing money everywhere, and then even as a single star with Dusty and Ronnie Garvin and Magnum TA, obviously, he was drawing money himself for Ricky Steamboat. And he for sure should be, but so should Arn, but again, I don't want this to come off as me being bitter, but Vince has his favorites and has what he likes and what he doesn't like. And I've told this story one time before, and I'll tell it again really quick, but we came back from a match with New Day that we all loved, and it was so incredible, and we had such a high from that match that we got to the back. Vince pulled me and Cash to the side, and he said, do you know what you guys' problem is? And we're like, oh no, we just had a great match, we thought. You guys are great professional wrestlers. That's your problem. Everyone says you're the next Arn and Tully. Well, you are the next Arn and Tully. That's your problem. And he meant that as a slight to us. And it's like, man, you're calling us one of the greatest tag teams of all time, and just because you don't like them, you don't like their work. So I'm sure that they don't lose any sleep over it because they know how good they were and what the career they had. But yeah, they absolutely, but before they go in, the Midnight Express should be in too. There's just, I couldn't even get into this.
Yeah.
That's actually the column I'm working on as we speak. I've done part 1 and 2, and obviously it's about people who I feel should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. There's part 2 was honorable mentions of people who they never get mentioned for like Hall of Fame nods, and Joe Blanchard was actually one of them. And it was stuff like that that actually brought them to my attention. I'm like, you know what? Why isn't Tully on his own yet? Why isn't Arn on his own yet? But at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's either they.
It's okay. Tully's going to be in the AEW Hall of Fame in about 10 years, so that's going to be something that he'll be very proud of, and he should be.
He deserves.
I know I was late, but I have to head out. I got to go to Jacksonville still. Is there much left?
One more question, and that's about it. And obviously, to finalize, today's interview, which I'm very grateful for you guys for your time more than anything else. What's next for FTR?
I think we continue to ride the wave, continue to build our brand, FTR's brand, continue to build Pinnacle's brand. Ultimately, I want to build AEW's brand. That's what we're here for. We want to make AEW the greatest wrestling company in the world. Wrestling has been my life. Wrestling is my mistress. It's my passion. I love it to a fault. And I want AEW to continue to thrive for 30 years. And and I want to be a part of that. I want us to be a part of that. Obviously, becoming the tag team champions for a second time is our goal, but we can't make that happen. There's only a couple of guys that can make it happen. It seems like they don't want to make it happen right now, which is fine, whatever. If I was a tag team that considered myself the greatest tag team of all time, and the year prior, the other tag team that's considered the greatest was number 1 rated in PWI. We had all the accolades, and we can actually give them a run for the money. Yeah, I'd keep them down too, but that's just me. But yeah, ultimately building AEW's brand. That's, I think, what is next for us, is continue to build it, make it the greatest wrestling company in the world.
Yep, that sums it up for me.
Well, that's great. And like I mentioned before at the start of the interview, I'll say it again now. I do want to thank you guys for your time. It's much appreciated, especially today, because I know you are going to be live on TV in a few hours. And more than anything else, to take time from your busy schedules means a hell of a lot to me. And it means a hell of a lot to NoDQ.com. So thank you very much, guys. And I want to thank also, he's going to kill me for this, but I do want to thank Danny Kerth as well for liaising and arranging this interview. We'll be back, hopefully, with more AEW interviews very soon. This has been Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, FTR from All Elite Wrestling. Thank you for your time, guys, and I hope you have a great day.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.